My reaction to this episode is amazing. Both episodes are good. Obviously, the fifth episode was a filler, but I thought it was a good filler. And the sixth episode just brings us back into the world that they're in. And boy, oh boy, do they do it in a great way. So let's talk about episode five. So episode five opens on St. Patrick's Day, and we see Matt Murdock meeting with Kamala Khan's father, who works at the bank. And her dad obviously tells Matt about Miss Marvel, and basically what happened was Matt is applying for a loan to expand his business, his whole law thing that's going on, but he does get denied, and it seems like Matt's getting denied by a lot of banks for that. And while he walks out, we see one of Kingpin's guys, or really one of Luca's guys. They excuse me, bet. They basically come into the bank to rob the bank. Like, dude, it's like a group of people want to rob the bank. And we also see that, Matt can hear what's going on while he's on the phone. I'm pretty sure he was talking to his business partner, and he tells her, yo, call the people, call the cops. And then he ends up going back in there. And we end up seeing, obviously, Angie Kim, which was super cool. It was cool to see her in there. And she popped up because she is a detective, obviously, or I think she's like a captain. I think she's a captain, which is cool. And we see Matt. He just walks in the bank, so now he's inserted himself into this robbery. So Matt does what he does. He gives all these talks, and he asks to go to the bathroom. And when Matt goes to the bathroom, he puts one of the lackeys to sleep. And he then goes and saves Kamala Khan's father, because basically what happened was Kamala Khan's dad. He said that he knew the code to the vault, but he didn't, because the manager was not there. But he did it to try to save the people, you know what I'm saying? So Matt was like, just go to the vault and I'll meet you there. And Matt ends up, opening the vault using his hearing. And then we end up seeing that inside the vault, there's not really money, but they found a gem that was probably worth the $1.8 million or whatever it was. And so Matt ends up taking the gem back up to the robbers, and he gives he gives the gem to the robber. But the funny thing is, it's not actually the gem, it's a butterscotch and a thing, but it's kind of a trick, right? And so what happened was, the guy that was kind of leading the robbery, he ends up escaping, and Matt Murdock ends up catching up with him, and they get into a brutal fight. Matt puts on a mask and they fight, and Matt Murdock, it looks like at first like he's trying to get back in the swing of things because he hasn't fought in a while. But we see Matt Murdock break his leg and knock him out. And then that's kind of, how the episode ends. And then it ends with, obviously the robbers looking at the gym, and the girl who took the gym, she found out that there wasn't a gym. And so then at the end of the episode, we see Mr. Khan invite Matthew over for dinner. And this is setting up Miss Marvel and Daredevil probably teaming up in the future, and she's possibly going to pop up in season 2, which I think would be cool, because I am a Kamala Khan fan, and I think that Miss Marvel is a dope show, so that'd be cool. Now let's get to episode 6. So one of the things that's dope is that we end up seeing Swordsman, and he's basically in. So there's this news cycle that kind of flows throughout the show, and we see a video of Swordsman fighting. He has on a mask, which is cool. And so then we also end up finding a dead body by the river. And obviously, it's Muse, because if you don't know, Muse drains the blood of people, and then he uses it for paintings. But obviously, there's residue. So, and when I say that, there's going to be dead people that's going to be just laying around the city, because he's a serial killer. And where else do you put the dead bodies? I will burn them, but that's his thing, or at least just drown them. But maybe that's his message. I don't know. But we also hear Matt, and he's kind of like up in the morning after being with his girl, and he's looking at Foggy's death card, and he's quoting scripture, which I thought was cool. And while he's quoting scripture, Matt Murdock is reflecting on his past. Basically, they're showing us everything that's happened this season so far. And we also see that one of Kingpin's boys, Luca, he popped up in the mayor's office. And this was, about the whole 1.8 million that Luca owed one of Kingpin's other guys in their little circle because of some beefs. And Kingpin tells him, he's like, and so Kingpin's like, yo, I need you to pay the 1.8 mil. And Luca's like, yeah, nah, that's not happening, bro. I'm not paying him the 8 mil. And so Kingpin says, since you want to be disrespectful, I'm gonna make that 1.8 mil 2 million or 2.1 or something like that, or 2.8, I forget. And then Luca was like, yeah, like, that ain't happening, bro. You need to stay in your lane. You're in politics now. You're old. You're out of this. Just disrespecting Kingpin. And so what has happened now is Kingpin is being viewed as weak, and you could tell Kingpin is visibly frustrated, because he used to have sauce back then where if he said it, it got done. It's not like that anymore. And if you don't know why, if you watch the earlier seasons, Kingpin was a master crash out. Okay. Like, if you piss Kingpin off, he's beating the crap out of you until you die. And I'm not saying with a weapon, by hand, he's beating the crap out of you. And it was just, And in my opinion, Kingpin has the best crash outs in Marvel history. So let's go back to the story. So someone from the mural cleaning company, they end up going to Kingpin and telling him that the mural was made out of blood because he couldn't really scrub it off, and so he had to run a diagnostics test on what that paint was, but it was blood. And so we also found out that Hector was investigating Muse when he was, and which could probably explains why Hector ran to the subway so fast because he knew that something weird was going on there. And so Hector's niece ends up telling Matt this, and she's also on to Muse too, telling Matt, "Yo, like I need to I need you to try to do something so we can figure out what's going on." And Matt's just like, "Yeah, nah, like we got to get the cops involved." And then Hector's niece is like, "You know what? Like if you're not going to do it, then I'm going to do it myself." So obviously we know where she's going. She's going to find Muse. But the funny thing is, we all not even funny, but we also see two girls, right? They're kind of drunk walking out of a club down the street, and they see Muse kind of spray painting, and they ask Muse for a picture with them, and Muse takes them, like physically takes them. So then we go from that. And look, all these scenes are kind of jumping back and forth. That's why I'm jumping so quickly. So then we also go to Kingpin again, and something that we see is that Kingpin is at this dinner where he's talking to all of these elites because of the fact that he wants them to pay for the whole docking thing that he wanted to do. And we end up actually seeing him talking to swordsmen, which is dope to see as well, because he's obviously a rich elite in New York. And we just see that a lot of people think that his port project is a con because he's gotten rich off of the ports when he was the king of crime, and so he was really rejected by everyone. And the reality is that the people might love Kingpin, but the rich elites, they see Kingpin as he truly is, which is a criminal. You know what I mean? So obviously they're not really feeling him. And so we then go to Matt Murdock being told about Muse again by one of his boys down at his law firm. And his boy tells him like, "Yo, like there's a serial killer going around," kind of confirming what Hector's niece was going through. And so Matt's just kind of like, darn, like, what do I do? And then his boy's like, "Yo, like let the cops do their job." So we go from that scene to we see Kingpin being told, right? Because Kingpin gets called out to his car. He tells Vanessa, "Yo, like tell everybody that honestly I'm sorry that I gotta go and that I'm sorry." And so we see that those two girls that Muse took, he killed them and put them out just on the public street dead with a painting. And so they show Kingpin that, and then Kingpin's pretty pissed off. And so we see what Kingpin does to solve this. So we see that Kingpin has handpicked a task force, and he meets, and we see him meeting with this task force. And obviously, if you don't know what the task force is, this is the anti-vigilante task force. And we see Kingpin give a really compelling speech. They're not going to have any body cams. They're kind of going to be like messing with the law a little bit more, but they're doing it to try to find this Muse guy, and to figure out what's going on. And so that's going to be crazy for next episode. But anyways, back to the story. Right? We also see Hector's wife call Matt Murdock because she's like, "I don't know where my niece is," and Matt knows that she basically told him that she was going to find Muse. So Matt's just like he dials 911, and while they're on the phone, he's like, "You know what? I gotta do it because 911 ain't gonna do nothing." So he suits up as Daredevil, and we see Daredevil. You know what I mean? So, and it was just dope seeing him suit up and be able to glide and stuff. It was fun, and we also see, that Muse did get to Hector's niece, and he was kind of holding her in the air while she's unconscious, and we see Muse start to drain her blood, and is just that whole scene was just disgusting. How it was nasty. And what happens is we see Kingpin and Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil, kind of have two different coming to Jesus moments as characters. So we see Kingpin coming down, kind of like this under bunker thing with an axe in his hand, and obviously he's going to Vanessa's dude, basically like Vanessa cheated on Kingpin with this guy that Kingpin was holding hostage. He brings an axe down to him, and we see something interesting happen, right? We see that Kingpin throws the axe at him, and he was like, "I want you to use this against me." And so obviously we are about to witness a Kingpin crash out. So while that's happening, we also see Muse. As I said, he starts to drain her blood, and we see Daredevil start to fight Muse, and we see Kingpin and Daredevil fight at the same time, not each other though. So Kingpin is fighting Vanessa's like lover boy, and obviously Daredevil's fighting Muse. So Kingpin's crashing out, which is, as I said, you guys gotta watch it. It's the greatest crash out ever. Like it brings back the old school Kingpin where he's yelling uncontrollably and just letting all of his anger out. And mind you, this is probably anger built up from Luca and from the whole political event he had where he got denied and called a criminal. So all that crash out is just channeling that. And so we see that happen, and we are kind of watching them both kind of crash out to an extent. Daredevil, and then in the end, they both get what they want, right? Daredevil saves Hector's niece. But Kingpin also kills Vanessa's lover boy. So now we see both of these characters return to their true selves, which is Kingpin being a villain and Daredevil being a good Matt Murdock being Daredevil. So this is a really good crossroads for both of these characters and where they are in their story, because it took a while for them to figure out like who they are at heart. And it seems like, Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock knows he's Daredevil. And Fisk is, I think he's realizing his true nature, which is wanting to kill, wanting to do crime, wanting to, kill and take out his anger on people. I mean, that's who Kingpin is. When you piss Kingpin off, you will pay. And I feel like him not, retaliating to people was getting to his head. And this was him taking out his anger, because honestly, I thought that at the end he was going to crash out on Luca, because obviously he was talking crazy to him, but obviously that did not happen. So yeah, man, I think this is a really good, episode. Episode six is might be my favorite episode so far, to be honest. I loved it. So I would love to hear what you guys thought about it, though. So please, as I said, please like and comment. We'd love to see how you guys feel. But yeah, man, this episode was great. I enjoyed it, and I feel like we are about to get some fire episodes going forward. And I can't wait to see Frank Castle's Punisher come out, and I think the anti-vigilante task force is going to make him come out. So, and because of the fact that they're trying to find Muse. So I love this. Love to hear what you guys got to say. Please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. And peace out, y'all.